So I'm reading the book "The Courage to Be Disliked" by Ichiro Kishimi, and it's based on the philosophies of Samuel Adler, Adlerian psychology, who's a contemporary of Freud and Jung. Is this too pop culture for you? She doesn't like other dogs walking in front of her yard. Even though she's not a true husky, she does howl sometimes, and she doesn't bark very often. She mostly just sleeps and poops. Anyway, I want to read you something. Because as I'm reading this book, he's talking about inferiority complexes, right? And I don't know enough to sum it up for you here, but it's super fascinating. He's basically talking about how everybody feels inferior at times, right? You don't have enough education to get a particular job, you might feel inferior. Now, if you think, okay, well, I can change that and I'll get on that train and all aboard for that job USA, that can be used as a springboard or a positive to be highly influential in that way for growth. Or you can develop an inferiority complex thinking, well, I'm never going to get an education, so I'm never going to get that job and everything sucks and all that. Then even deeper, there's a superiority complex, which is where you boast or think you're better than everyone. But there's another one that he covers in this, and I think it's super interesting, and I want to share it with you because I think you're going to enjoy this, because I think it accurately describes a lot of things that are happening in the current year of our Lord, 2024. It's actually been happening for about 4 years. But let me throw this at you. And keep in mind, this is mid-19th century or whatever. So if he's saying stuff that was true then, but it's also true now, it'll be interesting. It's interesting to think about because it maybe implies that there's a pattern here, right? I think. So I'll read this. I may put up some flowers or mountainscapes while I read this. But it's probably going to take me a few minutes to get through this. Here we go. I think you're going to... Just wait. Hold on. I know you want to click on something else, but just listen to this because I think you're going to find it interesting. By the way, the book is told to the story of this philosopher talking with youth, the conversation back and forth. The youth asks questions, got his own ideas about things. The philosopher shares his ideas, and they go back and forth. And that's how they introduce Adler's psychological theories, which I think is a really interesting way to do it. So at one point, they're talking about inferiority complexes, and the philosopher says, now there's one last example I'd like to give, a complex example that deals with boasting. It is a pattern leading to a particular feeling of superiority that manifests due to the feeling of inferiority itself becoming intensified. Concretely speaking, it's bragging about one's own misfortune. The person who assumes a boasting manner when talking about his upbringing and the like, the various misfortunes that have rained down upon him, if someone should try to comfort this person or suggest some change be made, he'll refuse the helping hand by saying, "You don't understand how I feel." Such people try to make themselves special by the way of their experience of misfortune, and with the single fact of their misfortune try to place themselves above others. Take the fact that I am short, for instance. Let's say the kind-hearted people come up to me and say, it's nothing to worry about, or such things have nothing to do with human values. Now, if I were to reject them and say, you think you know what short people go through, huh? No one would say a thing to me anymore. I'm sure that everyone around me would start treating me just as if I were a boil about to burst and would handle me very carefully, or I should say circumspectly. By doing that, my position becomes superior to other people's, and I can become special. Quite a few people try to be special by adopting this kind of attitude when they are sick or injured or suffering the mental anguish of heartbreak. They use their misfortune to their advantage and try to control the other party with it. By declaring how unfortunate they are and how much they have suffered, they are trying to worry the people around them, their family and friends, for example, and to restrict their speech and behavior and control them. The people I was talking about at the very beginning who shut themselves up in their rooms frequently indulge in feelings of superiority and use misfortune to their advantage. So much so that Adler himself pointed out, in our culture, weakness can be so powerful and strong. Adler says, in fact, if we were to ask ourselves who is the strongest person in our culture, the logical answer would be the baby. The baby rules and cannot be dominated. The baby rules over the adults with his weaknesses, and it is because of this weakness that no one can control him. Of course, the words of this person who has been hurt, "You don't understand how I feel," are likely to contain a certain degree of truth. Completely understanding the feelings of the person who is suffering is something that no one is capable of. But as long as one continues to use one's misfortune to one's advantage in order to be special, one will always need that misfortune. I mean, ding dong. Is that not spot on? Everyone today is talking about how they've experienced these things and you don't know how I feel, and they use that to elevate themselves. That's how I take this. And then they're always going to need that misfortune because that's how they built their brand, so to speak. I'd be interested to know what you think. This is a fantastic book. I'm only halfway done, so I don't know if I'm going to... I definitely don't agree with everything. I'd have to think about a lot of this stuff more, but it's really fascinating. The Courage to be Disliked by Ichiro Kimichi.